no one ever picked from the middle tree. In the orchard behind St. Wola's Abbey, there were 33 apple trees, planted in perfect rows during the famine of 1682. All bore fruit, all but one. The center tree twisted, gnarled, its branches curled like fingers, pulled back in pain, had never blossomed. Not once, no flowers, no leaves in spring. And yet, every few years, someone swore they saw a single apple hanging there. Just one, red as old wine, heavy as guilt. But no one touched it, because whenever it appeared, someone in the village disappeared. Not left, not died, disappeared from memory. Begged people to speak honestly in confession, but no one listened. One Sunday, her mother confessed to the priest that she sometimes wished Anelka had never been born. The next morning, the girl's bed was made, but no toys, no clothes, no drawings. Her name was not in the schoolbook. Her laughter was gone from memory. They told him, confession is between the sinner and the Savior. The tree has nothing to do with it. No search party, just absence, carved into conversations like a word half swallowed. A plate at the table people forgot to set. A child's laughter echoing in a home with no children. Only the abbey kept records, faded baptismal ink, census marks, names now marked with a tiny. The monk who'd starved himself to death to atone for a sin no one could remember. Some said he had lied about his name. Others said he had lied about someone else's. No funeral, a quiet monk, each one rotten on one side. And each time, the same thing. Barely 30, who'd come to St. Wola from Olomouc after losing his brother in a fire. He never talked about the loss, but he spent long hours in the orchard, sketching the trees, recording the weather, whispering to the bark as if asking forgiveness. Brother Thaddeus was the first to question it. He noticed the pattern. Each time a lie was spoken in confession, a deliberate lie, not omission, a fruit would appear on the middle tree, a name would vanish, and soon after, the villagers said it was punishment, that the tree belonged to St. Anseld, but the abbey did not speak his name aloud anymore. Brother Thaddeus kept a private journal, hidden behind a loose brick in the chapel wall. He wrote of 12 apples in 12 years. The name fades first from the lips, then from the books, then from the dreams, and finally from God. He tried to stop it, until the girl vanished. Her name had been 8 years old, bright smart. She asked too many questions. That night, an apple bloomed on the middle tree, except for Brother Thaddeus, he remembered, because he had saved her drawing, slipped into the back of his journal, and on that page the ink remained. Brother Thaddeus did not sleep that night. He lit a candle in the chapel and laid the drawing flat upon the altar. "There's no such girl," he said gently, as if soothing a man waking from a fever dream. "You're confusing her with someone else." It was a crayon sketch, crude but vivid, of a house with one crooked chimney and a bird sitting sideways on the roof. Her signature was at the bottom, Anelka B, in red. The B stood for something, he was sure, but he could no longer recall what. The other monks denied she had ever lived. Even Father Marek, who had taught her catechism, but at its roots, nestled in the dry soil like an offering, was the apple, still there, vibrant, shining faintly under moonlight. He heard a voice. With shaking hands, he picked it up, just a thin sliver of parchment curled in the center, like a seed's ghost. He unfolded it carefully, but Thaddeus had the proof, the drawing, and one more thing. That night, after everyone had gone to their cells, he crept to the orchard. The middle tree, as always, stood silent. The skin was warm, and when he held it to his ear, not loud, not clear, but soft, like a name called from underwater, he brought the apple to his chamber, cut it in half, and found something stranger still. No seeds, one word. But if he opened them at midnight, and only then, the names inside would linger. He wrote them down, filled a notebook. Nothing. The old priest stared at it for a long time, then whispered, "She used to sing in the evenings." But in the cellar beneath the bell tower, he found a candle holder with that name scratched beneath the baseboard. Anelka's last name. He fasted, he prayed, and whenever an apple appeared, he gathered it, wrapped it in cloth, and stored it in a box beneath his cot. He tried to show the others, but by morning the paper had disintegrated. The drawing had faded. All that remained was the apple, now grey and soft, as if time had resumed inside it. From then on, Thaddeus began to collect them. He marked the roots of the middle tree with chalk, checking daily. Each one held a different name. Sometimes, too, he discovered that if he left the apples uncut, they withered within days, or forgotten by the world, but not by him. He tested one, the name Zuzalama, a woman no one remembered. He searched old parish ledgers. He took it to Father Merrick, the center tree, and then, like breath returning after drowning, the memory came back. Zuzella had lived, had died in childbirth, had been erased. One name recovered. Thaddeus realized then, the apples were not curses. They were records, fruit of forgotten truth. Each one a memory denied, a lie told in dark corners, a silence too long kept. And the middle tree, St. Anselm's tree, wasn't punishing the liars. It was collecting what they threw away. But the question remained, why 33 trees? And what would happen when bore 33 apples at once? The 33rd apple fell on the night of the feast of St. Walpurga. Brother Thaddeus had waited for it. For weeks, the middle tree had creaked in the windless dusk, groaning like old pews shifting beneath invisible weight. One by one, the apples had come faster. Not years between them now, but days, then hours. 32 red orbs, perfect in shape, each containing a name too long forgotten. Until, on the 32nd night, he heard them fall like soft footsteps on the grass. And then, stillness. He prayed for silence to last. It didn't. At exactly midnight, with no wind, no moon, the final apple dropped without a sound. When Thaddeus bent to pick it up, it was already warm, not like fruit, like skin. He knew now that candles distorted the names. Memory recoiled from light, like shadows being forced to declare shape. He brought it to his cell, alone, lighting no candle. He sliced the apple in half. Inside, black seed pulp. No name, no parchment, just the whisper of breath, not into his ear, but from his own lips. He dropped the fruit. It rolled to the corner, and he sat, staring at his trembling hands. He didn't recognize the voice, but the name struck like a wound across his ribs. The name he'd stopped speaking, not forgotten, buried his brother, dead in the fire, all in different hands, all trailing off at the same place, the center, or so he'd believed. But as the name lingered in his mouth, his chamber began to change. The walls peeled like old skin, revealing scratched carvings beneath the plaster. All names, a circle, within it, a sigil, 3 apples, 1 eye, and under it, St. Anselm bore no sons, except Thaddeus, remembered otherwise, a novice, never named, never buried in the cemetery. He remembered stories of a novice who died by fire, blamed for a candle left too near the tapestry, and he remembered a voice crying out his name. Thaddeus opened the door, but he hadn't. He froze. He ran. He had lied, not just to the abbot, to himself. For all these years, he had called it grief, but it was cowardice. He had let his brother die, and spoken no name, and now the orchard had collected them all. But instead of relief, he felt dread, because 33 was not a number of redemption. It was a number of restoration, balance, and something in the air that night, something in the soil beneath the trees tensed, as if waiting for the final word. And Thaddeus realized too late. The orchard had never been about remembering the lost. It had been growing them back. At Lord's, when the first bell rang before dawn, Brother Thaddeus woke, not to its sound, but to absence. The box beneath his cot was open, empty, all 33 apples gone. The floor held no signs of disturbance. The lock unbroken. The cloth wrap still folded, as if the fruit had vanished without movement. Only the faint scent of ash and pressed leaves remained, like the air in a crypt long sealed. He rushed to the orchard. Mist clung low to the ground. The other trees stood as always, docile, waiting. But the middle tree had blossomed. It had never bloomed before, and beneath it, 33 pairs of footprints led outward in every direction, each beginning in the exact center of the root. Now, pale flowers unfurled along its black branches, like veins blooming from a long-dead heart, not walking away, stepping out. No one would say it aloud, but new faces were among them. just men sitting at breakfast, reading from psalters, folding linens, as if they had always been there. He returned to the abbey, shaken, only to find the brothers gathered in uneasy silence. Not visitors, not pilgrims, as if Thaddeus were the one forgetting. Thaddeus approached one, a gaunt man with clouded eyes and a voice too old for his skin. "Brother Olwen," the man said. "We trained together." No, Thaddeus didn't know him, but when he looked around, he saw the others accepting Olwen's presence as if he'd never left. By Vespers, 7 of the returned walked openly among them. By Compline, that number was 12. Their names matched the ones he had written. Zuzellama Yarrick, the bellmaker, Anelka's mother, and in the center, a crumpled piece of cloth, his own, from the box, but not yet. He dared not speak of it. That night, he crept back to the orchard. The tree was bare again, the flowers gone, but at its base, something new. A ring of fingernail-sized bones, delicately arranged like petals, stained with red ink, not blood, writing 33 names, but some were crossed out, and beside each, a second name, newer, sloppier, as if over. Others now had double entries, one struck, one underlined. Thaddeus realized the truth with a sickness deeper than fear. The orchard wasn't adding the forgotten back into the world, it was replacing someone else with them. For every name remembered, another was being unwritten. Balance, the sin of forgetting, now repaid in full. He ran to the chapel, to the register, page after page, changing. Names he recognized were fading, reforming. Some bore smudges where ink refused to hold, and next to his own name, blank space, not empty, waiting, as if the orchard hadn't yet decided which version of him it would keep. Brother Thaddeus no longer dreamed in words. He dreamed in names, scratched into bark, whispered behind doors, burned into walls. Each one drifted past him like smoke, and each time he tried to grasp them, they changed, reformed, became unfamiliar. And always, at the edge of the dream, stood a tree, black, blooming, and beneath it, a child with no face, holding an apple. Reaching out, he awoke just before matins. The chapel was quiet, too quiet. The abbey grounds were intact, the buildings unchanged, but people looked at him with either too much warmth or none at all. The bells had stopped. He stumbled outside into a world both familiar and foreign. He passed monks who greeted him with smiles, calling him brother. Others, confused, squinted and said, "Are you new?" He understood then the orchard had not yet chosen. He was in between, and the only thing that could resolve the fracture, that could stop the root from splitting, was to give the tree what it wanted most, a true confession, not to the abbot, not to God. The grass bit at his soles like bristles, as if the ground itself resisted memory. To the orchard, he walked there barefoot. The middle tree stood waiting. At its base, no apple, just soil that steamed faintly, as if exhaling. To hearing scream, to hiding the truth, to praying not for his brother a soul, but that no one would ever ask what he had done. He knelt, and he spoke. He confessed to running from the fire. "I made the world forget him," Thaddeus whispered, "because I feared remembering would prove it was my fault." The tree groaned, and then it bloomed, some in Latin, others in Czech, some he'd never read before. Not apples, not flowers, names. Each name he had written in his notebook appeared on the bark, scarring it, etching themselves upward like ivy. And one, at the very top, Anelka, below it, barely visible. He reached out and placed his hand against that one, and the bark gave way. Not like wood, like a door. He fell forward, whole, unburnt, eyes soft, darkness, cold. Anelka smiling, holding his drawing, offering it back. And then, a voice. "You buried me, but I grew anyway, alive, breathing." He tore the middle tree down with his own hands, root by root. He burned it, salted the earth. He turned, stood there, and behind him, "You don't have to lie anymore," she said. "I'm not trying to," Thaddeus whispered. A faint line of white petals still forms a circle in the grass, and the orchard answered. In the chapel, the bell rang once, just once, not morning. And when the brothers came to the tree at sunrise, They found Thaddeus asleep beneath it, but different. He did not speak for 3 days. When he finally rose, and when asked why, he said, "No memory is worth the cost of overwriting another soul." The abbey never grew another tree there, but every spring, and if you kneel and press your ear to the soil, you may hear a voice, not angry, just remembering your name.